Hello everybody. My name is Erik Stel, or Eric on Bike, and I'm going to talk about Code Paradise, an application development framework to allow you to build apps, because apps is going to be the thing that's sexy, as Stefan told us. So it's not about applications, but about apps. And I'm going to demonstrate a bit building web applications, server apps in Node.js, and mobile apps. So apps all over. Just so I have a bit of feeling of the audience here, who's building web apps? Who's building web apps using Smalltalk only? Fewer people. Well, that was the thing I was what I wanted to do. I'm in love with Smalltalk. Like this is a virus, this addiction I have. Can't get rid of it, and I don't want to get rid of it. But I want to build web applications, and normally that means you have to do JavaScript. And that's not what I want. I want to use Smalltalk. So I set about to create web applications using Smalltalk. And there are a few things around already which you can use to start doing things with JavaScript. But then it's often in the form of transpiling Smalltalk into JavaScript. But that transpilation leaves out that I want to have this live program experience because it gets lost in translation. So I took another approach. And that turned out what I'm showing here, Code Paradise. The thing I thought about is, what if I could run a real Smalltalk image inside my browser and have this Smalltalk image do all the DOM manipulation? Then I would be off the hook with JavaScript. And there were a few things already there, because I didn't want to reinvent everything. That's at first an easy path to choose, like, okay, let's do create everything on my own, but I wanted to use the things that are available. And there are a few things available already. So that's the Squeak.js virtual machine by Vanessa Freudenberg that allows you to run Smalltalk images. It even allows you to run a full IDE inside your browser. It'll be a bit slow because it requires a lot of information, like a regular image is 30 MB or maybe even more. So it doesn't feel really snappy. But if I run a small image, because I only need a few things, like for a web application, the main thing is doing DOM manipulation. And DOM manipulation has sort of three principal, at least for me, it had three principal elements. Like I need to be able to access a regular DOM element. I need to access a web component, because if I'm going to create applications, I want to have this composability, and web components offer that. Web components within the browser offer composability. And I need to be able to handle events. Like my user is clicking on a button, I want to be able to handle that button. So these are the three elements sort of that need to be there, but that doesn't require a full-blown Pharo image with an IDE compiler and all. So I could start with a very tiny image. And I implemented these three elements as Smalltalk objects, which have quite a few primitive methods, and these called like the FFI. I love the presentation, Esteban. Like the FFI, call the JavaScript counterpart functions to add a DOM element, put some styling on it, handle the event, and those kind of things. So by having that as mostly primitives, I have fine-grained control about these elements, and it still performs very well, because I don't want to be very sluggish, of course, otherwise no user will want to use my applications. My apps. All right, before long, I was like, doing a whole web application build up out of tiny DOM elements is quite a lot of work. So I want to have some ease of development as well. So I've developed a model view presenter pattern, which allows me to create bigger elements, views, which again I can nest like because it's web components. And yesterday this one was on as well. Now I have to reach a little higher, but I think I can manage. The model I'm using is a model view presenter in which the view is passive. It means it's only able to render something and it's able to receive an event. And this is how I prefer to have my web applications. They should be very dumb. There shouldn't be any logic in there except for what's needed to receive user input. And the presenter, it knows its view, it listens to announcements from the view, it knows its model, listens to announcements from the model, and it's the thing in between that makes sure that the view is rendered. And once an announcement is received from a view, the user clicked the button or gave some input, the model is updated. And once the model is updated, it will signal or announce it's changed, and the presenter can re-render the view again. Both the model and the presenter are running on the server side of the application app, and the view is running in the browser. That's the only thing that's running in the browser. I'm saying no sealing possible. That's kind of a reminder for myself to talk about sealing later on. Okay, so I mentioned it already. It's based on a tiny Smalltalk image. I've been able to keep it just above 200 kilobytes, so that's quite small. Most images you will see when you're browsing the web, it will be a multiple of this. And that's the initial image that runs inside the browser. So you run the Squeak.js virtual machine, the JavaScript virtual machine, and that takes this image, and then this image will start up the application. On the server side, that's your regular Pharo image, but it could be a headless image running on some server you have in the cloud. To keep it small and performant, I didn't want to have a compiler inside this, inside the browser in this tiny image. So what it actually does, it only receives the class definitions and the bytecode, which form the methods and the blocks within the methods. So only very few things have to be sent to the client image, and bytecode is not very big. It's only a set of bytes per method, so that's it still remains small. And to be able to have both directional, like you want to be able to change things in the image, and the image should be able to send events back. There's a WebSocket connection in between. So there again, I'm using the technology available, web components, WebSockets, the things that are there. Slight detail there for anyone interested in how it is set up. So in the web browser, you have this tiny image which has a so-called client environment with a communicator and a WebSocket channel. On the server side, we have the same setup, but it's the server variant. It's based on sync, by the way, the WebSockets. The views are run in the browser, of course, and there's one class which is the client behavior that allows to add some startup things to your application app. And on the server side, you have on this case, I'm using the MVP. You don't have to create the model view presenter variant. You can use a regular application as well, which is kind of your session on the server side. And in case of the MVP variant, it keeps track of the presenters, and the presenters know the models. So that's the way things are hooked up. And again, the only thing that's being communicated between the two is either sending compiled code to the client image, or it's announcements back from the browser to your server image. All right, let's demo. I leave it on. Okay. Oh. Didn't realize the screen size. Come on. So I just started up the application in the browser by accessing a URL, and so what it did was load this client image, this tiny image, and the first thing it does is send out an announcement to the server saying, "I'm started." And the server image then knows, okay, this application, the dashboard application in this case, it's started, so I'm sending out the classes relevant for this application. And it will only send out the relevant classes for this screen at the moment, so only for the login. It will not install all the applications. It has a dynamic mechanism that as soon as it sees that a certain new class or method is required, it will install it. And by installing a method which refers to a class, it will install that class as well. So there's a mechanism there to allow to incrementally create this application. And this is where sealing comes in later on. So I'm logging in, and here's a little app. The application itself isn't very interesting. It's not part of the it is part of the demo, but just as an example. It's work in progress, so bear with me. And I'm able to create things like events in which I can act. This is, by the way, no, this doesn't matter. So I have an application here. These are web components. So if I look in the, damn, it's tiny. Does that work? No. Oh yeah, it works there as well. So here you can see a number of the web components, and their name is matching the names in the Smalltalk on the Smalltalk side. So for example, I have here the is shared moment is the application name. So shared moments collection is showing a collection object. And if I go to the Pharo environment, I'm going to the collection. I see I have a class here with two class-side methods, one for the HTML template, because yes, I can get rid of JavaScript, but getting rid of HTML is a bit difficult in getting a browser application, a browser app. So, and here I have the HTML, and I've got a style sheet, which is just regular cascading style sheet for this component. So it's contained within the web component. And if I now take this HTML and what can I do? There's I'm just going to add and if I, as soon as I save this this template, it's going to appear in the display. So I updated my image on the fly, and this is part of the live programming experience I like so much in Smalltalk. I change something and it happens immediately. Every browser which would be looking at this app would have changed the appearance directly as soon as I hit the save button. And I can do that the same for styling. The demonstration Tim gave yesterday, he's not here today, unfortunately, already showed it. So you can change the application. You can also change behavior. For example, let's say I'm take the delete button here. It's not an directly delete. It's a delete with some option to undo it. I don't want to, but I could add an alert message to it. So on the instance side, I have the delete option, and I could say just checking if I'm using the wrong one, the correct one. And now if I try to delete it, it will come up with the question, oh really? Do I want to delete it? So I can also Yeah, there's no, definitely, because yeah, I built it to not be, you have to undo, so no need there. But I can update my application while I'm using it. I don't need to stop it, reload it, get back to the original location I was, and then and use it. You can also use it to create mobile apps, because apps are cool. So now you see me, and now you don't. But now you see my mobile phone, and I have installed here a capture app. It's somehow still asking me to allow to connect. Oh, sorry, the other one. Okay, so people, I really need you to wave now, please. Oh, I'm retaking it. I was shaking too much. Oh, keeping it steady. Okay, so I have this little mobile app here, and it does have access to the video stream. It creates an image of once I press the button. It's all created using Code Paradise. And once I'm going to press keep, what I'm going to do now, it's going to send out a REST request to a server to store this image. This is not here on my machine. It's online, so I hope the internet connection is good enough. It did. Yes, it survived. Okay. Oh, trying to click on the mirrored one. So there's another application that's showing, that's a photo frame, because the shared moments application is about sharing your moments, being able to make photos during your holidays and send it to like your grandparents or your parents and have it shown on an old iPad that's unused. And without the WhatsApp being able to communicate, now I just want to send a photo and that's it. Oh. And now this one isn't. You can use the cable. Grazie. I have a rather old phone and an old laptop, so yeah. All right. So here you see a couple of photos I've taken in the last couple of days before getting here. And hopefully it will also show the photo we just created. Some people may recognize places. If you're Dutch. Recognize you? You recognize me. That's true as well. Oh, come on. The randomness is not helping me here. Yeah, I worked on Code Paradise on the way. Who knows this one? Belgian people, sir. Yeah, it's the tunnel under the Schelde, allowing you as a cyclist to move there. Okay. At some point, this our just taken photo might arrive here. I'm leaving it up here in the corner. But this REST application that's running, that's oh, by the way, I'll leave it here and do a little talk. So for the video stream and doing a fetch to, well, it's called a fetch, but actually you're posting something. Those are JavaScript functions I have to use, which are in the browser, which, yeah, it is. Yay, it worked. Yes, I asked someone to fix it with the phone just right now. Those are functions which I do not want to have really fine-grained control and have this high performance. So it didn't need to be all primitives. So I also created a number of JavaScript proxy kind of classes which wrap JavaScript more in general. This allowed me, for example, to use promises, this video stream, and all kinds of other libraries relatively easily. It's just a few lines of code, typically because you don't want to use the JavaScript naming, like Esteban mentioned with the C language. You don't want to use the original C naming. You don't want to use the JavaScript naming. So you're wrapping it with a few names that are more Smalltalk-like. But this also gave me the opportunity, like if I'm able to run things on more general JavaScript, I can run Node on Node as well. So I can create server apps. Oh, Stefan is gone. I don't have to say apps that explicitly anymore. Here. So in this terminal, I'll make it a bit bigger. I'm running the same tiny image, but instead of receiving DOM elements or other browser-related classes, it receives Node-related classes. And you can load Node modules or external libraries. So in this case, you can see a few names, probably, about the HTTP server in Node, yes, and the SQLite wrapper library. And so in fact, this server here is running a REST API and allowing to receive information stored in a database and giving it back. And the thing is, of course, I want live programming. So if I go to the API, looking at the time, by the way. Ooh. Lunchtime. Yeah, it's lunchtime. Almost there. Please bear with me. It's fun. It's fun enough, I guess, right? All right. So I've implemented an API, and every endpoint is just one single method. So here you have a number of methods, and you specify using a few pragmas, you specify the endpoint. So I can create my own at the moment and just add it. Let's use this one for the moment. I'm doing a get photo count. Column. And it's going to be a ESUG specific one, so oh, it's a get. Thank you, Sharp. Removing some code here. No need for this. I'm gonna skip the database. I think you'll probably believe me. Let's do server response. I want something else. Sorry. Just gonna. I'm just going to answer JSON with a message saying come on. Okay. Sorry, my classes are horrible. Okay, saving it. And now if I go to a terminal, make it a bit bigger, and do a curl, and do ESUG, I said 2024, I think. Ah, darn, I added it, but I forgot to say that it's a public interface. So I'm going back, and I'm saying, okay, well, this is a public, just adding a pragma. And now, ta-da, oh, ta-da, send response is not what I want. Ah, Should have been self. Well, it's also good to see something failing. And there you have it, the response message, hello ESUG. So, again, this allows you to create apps, different apps, with more a lively perspective, live experience, using Smalltalk only. I haven't touched JavaScript in the demos, and I really like to keep it this way because Smalltalk is still the best thing. So, all right, questions maybe.
Where's your bike?
Back at the hotel.
Okay.
I cycled here.
Awesome.
It was true, yeah.
Your app is now connected to the Faro environment, but can it also run standalone? And maybe you were going to talk about sealing, but you didn't.
Yeah, didn't have the time, but yeah, you can seal an application. So if you're not using the MVP model, it doesn't require to have you the server with the models and the presenters. You can seal it. So the thing that's running on my phone, it's sealed. It's not. It doesn't need my server application. So it's a less than 400 kilobyte application I'm running on my phone. And the same is for the REST server. This one was connected because I'm still developing it here on my laptop. But actually, the photo I sent is to one on a VPS somewhere, and it's not connected to any Faro image. So I sealed that as well. So you can seal applications, and it doesn't try to communicate with a server to receive new code. Once code is there, you do just sort of a snapshot as you do a snapshot or save your image in your development environment. You just save it, and then you can use it as is.
Standalone, yeah.
Standalone.
That's great.
For the architecture, so this tiny squeak image is actually running on a JavaScript VM, which is also transported into the browser and the Node.js environment.
Yeah. So there's this Squeak.js, which is a virtual machine written in JavaScript, and it loads a tiny image, and that's based on Faro Candle. So it's not a Squeak image, but it's based on Faro Candle, which Caroline, she's not here in Gies, I think you were helping her or on her PhD build, and I adapted it a bit.
Second question is, did you also build all the standard widgets, or do you use a special library for that, or do you just render everything your own?
Yeah, like Tim showed in his demo yesterday, I'm using Shoelace, which is a full library of components. Shoelace. It's nowadays also available as a more commercial. Is called Web Awesome, as a companion to Font Awesome, and it offers all kinds of widgets. So I don't have to, but you can create your own, of course, as well. Yeah, and Shoelace is just another wrapper around different components to be able to use them fully in Smalltalk.
I don't know if it's in the scope of the project, but I would like to program using Smalltalk a single page application. It's called TiddlyWiki. So the idea is to use Smalltalk to access the DOM of TiddlyWiki. Could be that possible with this kind of architecture, having this not the server, but everything inside a single page application?
Yeah, you can. I think that would be possible. You could sort of even side load it on an existing application and then have it access the available DOM and do your manipulation. Like the MVP thing with the server is just as a convenience if you're building full applications on your own. But if you want to use it on a DOM level, so that can be done as well. Yeah, certainly. You could probably also create development tools. Like Greg Letta already did part of his work on those kind of things, which is on Squeak.js VM itself. Only we're using a different approach in the sort of the image we use, but that could be done as well. Yeah. So.
Cool. Thank you.
You mentioned that as long as you don't have models, you can seal your application. But can I do MVP on the client side only? I mean, and then seal it. Let's say I have a simple model instead of having to talk with the server to validate everything.
Yeah, of course.
I can have a full-fledged MVP application running on the browser.
Yes, you could. There are some limitations because, like, the tiny image, for example, doesn't have a date and time class at the moment. Because I'm not supposed to be using it. If from my perspective, my needs are a very thin layer of UI, and then I don't want to have date and time things in the browser. It's something the server can provide me with. So it's not implemented. But you could have your own model in there as well if you'd like. And you can make it fairly big. You could use the database in the browser, like the
web database.
Yeah, exactly.
WebSQL.
Yeah, all kinds of things are possible, but it's just sort of not my preferred model. So that's the reason for, and it doesn't allow the MVP mechanism if you're not connected. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Lunchtime then.